Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we're going to consider digital transformation and AI integration. And my super cool guest today is Orla Brown, Qualification and Assessment Developer over at AIM Qualifications and Assessment Group, a UK org offering nationally recognized qualifications for colleges, training providers, and endpoint assessments for apprenticeships in creative industries. Orla is an AI champion and an innovation qualification and assessment developer with a background as an FE law lecturer. She's also a pretty cool dude. We had drinks together after an AI summit recently, and I was like, Orla, you got to be on the show and educate the masses. Orla, my pleasure to welcome you to the show today.
Well, after that, wow, gosh, thank you so much for having me, Bill. I really, really appreciate it. It is very, very kind of you. And I got to say, I've been looking forward to this for weeks. So yeah, thank you very much.
So, Orla, I already know how cool you are, but our listeners don't yet. So why don't we start there? Why don't you take a couple of minutes and tell our listeners all about yourself, your career background, and what you get up to?
Okay, sure thing. So in terms of my career background, kind of one of those people that had these big ideas at school. You know, those people are like, I'm going to go off and I'm going to do this. And strangely enough, the world had other ideas. So I originally went off and did a law degree with history as a minor because I'm such a geek, absolute rocking legend that I am. And after that, I did my LPC in the beautiful Birmingham, around Brum. And then, if you remember, I don't know for those of your audience who are mature enough to remember the 2008 market crash, that kind of left me a little bit stuck. So I decided the best thing I could possibly do was travel. And that's what I did. I decided to move to Asia for a couple of years, which was so much fun. And that's where I really got into education. I was working in a private school there, which was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And after that, I decided that I wasn't going to go and take up the job offered to me in Korea, despite the fact that I'd heard wonderful things about South Korea. I got a job in an FE college in Lincolnshire, and I was able to use my law degree, and that brought me so much joy. Honestly, the people, the teachers, the students, absolutely fantastic. And that's where I got to know more about AIM, actually, the company I work for at the moment, AIM Qualification and Assessment Group. It was really, really wonderful because as part of my usual teaching gig, teaching A-levels, I also got to teach adults on what we call an Access to Higher Education course. And it was beautiful, transformative. The amount that people's lives would just blossom over the course of a year was remarkable. And honestly, that's why I am doing what I'm doing now, because seeing the kind of transformation that education, support and encouragement can have on people's lives, and watching them go from really not having that kind of confidence in themselves to 1 year later starting at university, it's a privilege. So yeah, I got myself into qualification development, and here I am.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up, it makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
Rock and roll. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's get into the focus of today's conversation, which is all things AI and helping folks get qualifications around AI, upskill them, either get them ready for the workplace or improve their existing skills. How do you see the future of vocational qualifications in the context of technological advancements and AI integrations?
Well, I'll just get my crystal ball out. So it's one of those areas that is blossoming, and I'm incredibly interested in AI. I've been interested in sort of digital technologies for a while, and I was acting as a digital coach for my peers for a few years before I moved over to qualification development. And what I'm thinking when I'm forecasting for the future is really informed by the people who still work in the industry. And what they're telling me is, I mean, there's some amazing practice that is going on at the minute. For example, when you look at things that are really technical and things that, for example, let's say using virtual reality or augmented reality and using that as a way to simulate an experience where you're doing a process that you're going to have to do in the real world, whether that process is stripping down an engine or whether that process is interacting with a patient in some way, the way that that is able to give you that quite authentic simulation when you're in that environment is fantastic. And it means that all of those providers that don't necessarily have access to the resources that they would like to have access to, we can kind of fake it till you make it. But not just with technical skills. I think it's really important to know as well that thanks to the rise of artificial intelligence, we're also seeing a fantastic opportunity for the development of soft skills. I was at a conference the other day, thanks to the City of Birmingham University, and the way that they are using artificial intelligence in their counselling department is fantastic. I cannot speak highly enough about it. So essentially what they're doing is they are programming their language model, and they're using things like Ask Annie and ChatGPT, and they're being very, very sophisticated in the way that they do it. So they're telling their counselling students, okay, you need to go off and you need to get a placement. You need to work in industry to give you this real world experience. You cannot become a counsellor without that. One of the challenges in that sector, however, is getting that placement. So what do? You use AI. AI is there, and you can program it to say, can you please act as a counsellor and counsel this person? Or can you please act as somebody who is looking for counselling? And this is where it gets really, really interesting. So they don't just say, can you act as somebody, for example, who might be depressed or somebody who might be anxious? Instead, they'll say, can you act in this way that is typical? So don't give too much information at once. Allow the counsellor to draw that information out from you. So really giving it as authentic a simulation experience as possible. And in that way, it gives those learners the ability to really hone and practice their skills, even though they don't necessarily have that placement setting just yet. So in terms of how that's going to keep moving in industry, whether it's a technical or whether it's a soft skill, I can't tell you for certain, but I can say it's definitely going to be there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
I love your energy, Orla. It is fantastic. I can tell that you love what you do. What are some of the big challenges in implementing AI in education and training, and how can they be overcome?
Well, in terms of one of the challenges, it's definitely cost at the minute. We think about training, and particularly look at further education. We look at further education as being a Cinderella sector. And it's called that because it has typically gone underfunded for almost generations. So what do? Well, we just use the free tools that are available to us. And thankfully, those are coming thick and fast, but only if you know where to look. So when it comes to things like ChatGPT, absolutely that accessibility, that feature is there. When it comes to using something like Gemini, it's there. You don't have to pay for the additional surplus privileged features in order to get a really fantastic experience. And that's really something that's becoming widespread. However, while that is picking up momentum and it is going across colleges across the UK, and I know certainly there's a sort of, I think it's 23 or 24 who are all joined together to have sort of an artificial intelligence working group. So it really is impressive. These 23, 24 colleges, as with every organisation, what you have at the minute is you've got the early adopters. You've got those people who are just so keen. They're like, yes, how can this save me time? How can this help my life? How can this help my learners? And those early adopters, as fantastic as they are doing the work of bringing all of that enthusiasm and energy, but they're also then trickling that down to the people around them. And so you then have to kind of think about persuading those people around you who as I'm sure you've heard, teachers tend to be quite vocal about the fact that the workload is significant. And I'm not going to take that away from them. It absolutely is. It is significant. However, we do have this future ahead of us. And this future means we need to upskill just a little bit. And it can be a little bit at a time, or we can chunk it and maybe do, like a week at a time. But we need to upskill. And if we can give that day or hour today, then we will get that day or hour back in increased efficiency and productivity down the line. But in terms of, how that's working at the minute, the early adopters have got it, they're running with it. It's like a mad race forward. And even though these things are not, they're not there yet. So what I mean by that is, we've got ChatGPT 4.0. We're looking to get to ChatGPT 5. When we think about the future of our industry, we know that by 2030, we're supposed to have something like a 26% boost in GDPR, all thanks to AI, something like 15 trillion. I think that AI is supposed to be adding to the global economy, which is more than India and China together, which is mad. And we're just trying to look at this and go, okay, if this is our future and this is something that we have to navigate, how can we actually make sure that we're prepared to do that? How can we get those skills together? And yes, using the free tools that are available to us will help us do that. But it's not just being aware, it is actually using it, and it is upskilling ourselves so that we can upskill our learners, so that we can upskill our industries, and so on and so forth. So that challenge is very much that we've got these wonderful early adopters who are brilliant, and they're trying to cascade all of this information, but you're always going to have those people who are very tired at the end of the day, who are reluctant. They've done the same task in the same way for the same X amount of years, and they're just not looking for a new way of doing it because they don't as yet see the benefit in it. And that's really one of the challenges that I think we're facing at the minute in education.
Fidello Inc. is a consulting firm specializing in improving human performance, and we're proud to support the HR Chat podcast. We help identify strategic competencies and behaviors that drive results. Our team offers an HR web software to manage systems, reports, and data for HR people that need the best insights to make the right decisions and achieve better results. Learn more at fidello.com.
Okay, some staggering numbers there. Thank you very much. So talk to me a bit more about your thoughts around the impact of AI on the future job market. We ask guests all the time on this show, it seems like, in terms of how they think AI are going to change jobs, what types of jobs will be created over the next couple of years. But obviously, your case, particularly in fields related to your qualifications.
Thank you. Yeah, well, in terms of our qualifications are really widespread. So, for example, I'm currently working on a suite of qualifications in construction and retrofit. There's also warehousing. There is things like digital skills. We go from entry levels to all the way up to sort of HNCs, HNDs. So we've kind of got the whole plethora of industries. But how I think that AI is going to change it, if I had to be really honest, I don't know whether or not I'm going to be pessimistic or optimistic, but if I was really honest, I think there is a fantastic opportunity there when it comes to AI. And the opportunity, I think, is particularly with our older generation. So at AIM, where I'm a qualification developer, as I said earlier, one of the things that really got me into this is the Access to Higher Education course that we do here at AIM. And it's meant for adults. And I don't know if you're aware, but in the UK, we have an ageing population. So that we've got about 19% of our population at the minute, which is over 65. And in the next decade, that's going to turn into 22%, hopefully everybody being healthy and well. So we've got a big portion of our population who are a little bit older. And I was listening to a really interesting interview the other day that talked about these people and said, well, actually, these are people who have the resource of time. These are people who tend to be in a little bit more of a comfortable position in their lives. They tend to be looking for something to do, but not necessarily lots. They're not so driven about things like, having a fantastic salary or whatever it might be, or a really important title. But they do still want to learn. They do still want to upskill. And actually, when we think about all of these people, these over 65s, if we think about them in terms of a group who we could be upskilling, then that's a fantastic opportunity to have somebody go, you know what, actually, I do know how to do this and I can show you because I took the time. I had the time, and I decided to go away and learn how to use, whether it's ChatGPT or whatever it might be. And I know that might be unusual or might be polarizing, because often when we think about artificial intelligence, we think about things like our youth. But there seems to be a huge misconception that our young people in the UK are very digitally native. It's this wonderful idea that because they have these smartphones and laptops and screens everywhere, that they absolutely know how to use them. And the truth is simply not that. They can use them. They can for everything to do with social media and everything to do with gamification. They know what they're doing. But when it comes to some of those really more, shall we say, specialist programs, even just something like Excel, they don't know what they're doing because they didn't necessarily see the need for it. And now that artificial intelligence is moving forward and it's permeating more and more into our roles, and we're having virtual assistants, and for example, in finance, we've even got virtual employees, actually being able to not just be comfortable with AI like young people are, but actually being able to take the time and upskill and then be able to integrate and use the AI in our lives, that's going to be something that's going to be one of those sort of core elements of our life. A little bit like working from home has become, it's just going to be second nature. And my concern, what I'm trying to do is figure out, okay, how do we make this happen? How do we make the opportunities that exist? How do we make sure that that is packaged in a way that our people, whether it's our young people or our older people, can benefit from this? How do I make sure that we have qualifications that industry will say, this is appropriate, this is reasonable, this is relevant, this is exactly what we want, and then that our students will go, yeah, I want to do that. That looks cool. So yeah, where do I see it? I think it's optimistic. I think it's going to be something that's amazing. And I know people are frightened at the minute, but I think hopefully once they start to use it more and it doesn't become quite such a dangerous word, it should be okay.
Okay, we are already coming towards the end of this particular conversation, Orla. We'll just have to get together again soon. But before we wrap up, a couple more questions for you. Just following on from what you were saying a moment ago, and maybe in summary of some of the other points you've made so far, how can employers get involved in shaping the future of vocational qualifications? And as part of your answer, what advice would you give to employers looking to collaborate with educational institutions to develop more effective training programs?
Oh, thank you, Bill. Absolutely. So to any employer out there who is thinking, you know what, I just don't think this is right. These people are coming into me, they've got these qualifications, but I don't think they have the skills that they need. And we hear that sometimes where people say, you know what, yes, these learners have got these qualifications and that's fantastic, but they can't then go off and perform the role, whether it's because they're missing a softer skill or whether it's because they're missing a specific technical digital skill, whatever it might be. So if you find that you're an employer and you're thinking, you know what, these people are coming to me and they've got this wonderful CV full of these beautiful qualifications, and yet they cannot do the simple tasks that I want them to do. So if you do find yourself in that particular situation and you kind of go, you know what, actually I want to talk to somebody about this, then do feel free to get in touch. So you can get in touch with myself. So I'm on LinkedIn, Orla Brown, but the easiest way to do this is to go straight to the AIM Group website. So that is www.aim-group.org.uk/contact. And if you just want to say, hi, my name is X, I'm an employer. So there's that key term there. I'm an employer and I'd like to support the development of a qualification. So particularly if you're anything to do with retail, transport and logistics, anything to do with construction, anything really, then we would be incredibly thrilled to have a chat with you and see if we can understand how better to meet your needs, because we need to make sure, very, very importantly, we need to make sure that whatever qualifications we are offering our learners, they are fit for purpose. They are doing what they need to do, because that's what we want for our learners. We want them to have a really good, really rich, wonderful experience, and then to go off and be able to use that in industry. We want that to benefit our community. That's why we're here. So the more you can help us do that with giving us feedback, giving us your time, then please do get in touch. But that doesn't mean that you need to give us the next couple of years of your life. An occasional video call or an email will be just as good in some cases. So do please feel free to just give us a bell. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you very much for being my guest today, Orla. I have enjoyed this conversation.
I love it. I have enjoyed this conversation. Me too, Bill. I have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for offering me the time today. It's it's been really special. Thank you.
I have enjoyed this conversation. How's that? Is that better? Okay. Well, that just leaves me to say, as always, listeners, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.